I still have this blind panic. Like I feel like I definitely have PTSD from that time when we had to record like 3 times, like 6 episodes.
We recorded both episodes twice, didn't we?
I feel like I'm done with that. Like every time now, like, and even the people that are watching on there are literally just going to see us every now and then just glance at that to make sure that things.
Every time you see me doing it, you'd hesitate.
It gives me the fear. I feel like we set each other up.
You talking, I'm here like, just looking over it.
Are the numbers still moving? Are people still hearing us? But anyway, we are here. So welcome back to Wedding Capture Co. We are here with episode number 9.
Episode number 9. So almost at the 10th episode. It's been going really well so far. I feel like on the 10th episode we should talk about just some of the people that have been listening, some of our stats and things. And we've been listening to you guys. We've been getting messages, and it's been lovely to do so far.
It has been an absolute pleasure. Like, for us to hang out more has been a good thing, but also just the amount of people that have listened, and people that I never expected to listen, and people that enjoy it and engage with it and actually listen to stuff that we say, because nobody normally ever listens to me. So I feel like that if we could, things that we've said in previous episodes have made a difference to the way that people do this job. That's kind of completed it, mate. That's what we set out to do when we started. So that's 100%. A nice feeling.
I feel like it's one of those things that, like, when you start it off, you're like, do you think it will last? A lot of people, including me, I start things and then I don't finish them. I'm like, actually, that's not a good idea. But this has been so consistent, and it's been consistently growing. And people, like you say, have been messaging saying, I found this episode really helpful. Every time we get a message like that is just automatically motivation to do the next one.
And I think even as well, arguably, like, we're recording this now at the beginning of July, that you're about to enter your busiest month. I feel like I'm definitely like drowning in the edit part at the moment, so that we've still managed to want to carve time to get this done. We've not just gone, we're going to break over the summer.
Yeah.
Like, there's no real want to kind of catch up with each other, have these conversations and keep it going through the busy time. If we can make that work, that once we get into kind of the end of the year where things start to calm down.
But it's good. It's an opportunity for us to catch up as well, and like, we're mates. So it's not,
and that's important as well. Yeah. Like, I don't feel like today's a work day.
No,
like, it comes up and it's like, today's podcast day. This is going to be a good day.
Exactly.
Like, not there's as much as I've probably got edits that I need to be doing, like admin, but this is still very much
from it.
And it's being productive whilst us still socialising. So it's
exactly.
It's
and I notice, like, with wedding suppliers and stuff, you'll like organised to meet up in the summer, and then when the wedding season starts, they'll be like, too busy now.
Yeah.
And it's like, I never want to be like that. So it's important to carve time out, isn't it?
And also, I've learned so much from this as well, and I'm hoping I'm going to learn a lot more from today's episode as well. But I think I've had a newfound respect for not even just videographers, but kind of it's opened my eyes to how other suppliers that do their jobs on wedding days see me and what I do, and hopefully it's made me maybe a more considerate person to other suppliers by doing the podcast and listening to things just from other people's point of view, because a lot of the conversations that I've had up to now have only ever been with other photographers. So to kind of realise that there's other people doing other jobs that I could impact in a positive or negative way.
Yeah, and it's really interesting. Like when we first started, we did say to each other, like, this is a unique opportunity to have a videographer and a photographer in a podcast, so that it's not like, there's a podcast for photographers over here, there's a podcast for videographers over here. Like, we're doing both, because at the end of the day, like, it's becoming more of a fusion these days anyway, like of a team these days. So it is good to learn, like, how each other work and things like that. But I'm kind of the opposite to you in the fact that most of my conversations are with photographers. Because obviously we work with a photographer every single wedding, so I guess we meet photographers more than videographers.
So the direct conversation that you have on wedding days is definitely with them photographers, but then I'd like to think there's other video people out there as well. That,
the
groups and stuff like that.
I follow a group on Facebook which is quite active. Well, a few groups on Facebook which is quite active, and we see a lot of things. And I've actually put some things out on the UK Wedding Videographers group today on Facebook for some questions for you.
I'll be grilled by the masses of the UK video community.
Which leads us on to basically what this episode is going to be about. And basically, I'm going to be asking you some questions that a videographer might ask a photographer in terms of how you work, not just how you work on your own, but also how you might change your style with a videographer, or what you would expect the videographer to do or not to do.
I feel like I'm answering not just for myself, but on behalf of photographers across the nation. So I feel like it's thrown me into the spotlight today. So if I say something that you don't agree with, one, that's kind of good, because we want it to be as honest as we can here. But other photographers don't throw me under the bus and tell me that I'm a terrible person for thinking the way I do.
I was thinking this on the way up. I was like, you're actually representing all photographers by asking this.
The good thing is we are going to do the flip of this episode in probably about a month's time. So then you'll be equally under the spotlight. So depending on how mad I get grilled today, is depending how harsh I am back to Chris with my assumptions about videographers.
I think this is a positive thing though, because even though you might not represent all photographers and their opinions, in my opinion, the way that you work is the way that most photographers should work.
Oh.
I don't know.
I think there's a compliment there. Well, again, we've done 2 weddings this year together.
No, you're positive. You're a positive person. You work with videographers really well, and I think that the answers you'll have to these questions are going to be quite insightful for people who either haven't worked with a lot of videographers or perhaps have like a bit of a, animosity
stigma,
or
I think that's probably the biggest thing is that, and we said this just before we started recording, is that all of us turn up to a wedding day and have been booked by the couple in question, or on whose day it is, to do our jobs. And yes, we want to do our jobs to the best of our abilities and in a style in which, kind of we show, which is why the couple booked us. But at the same time, so is everybody else on that day too. So you can't afford to be 100% selfish and be just there for yourself. You have to kind of and sometimes there is always going to kind of give and take a little bit and compromise in order for everybody to get the best of what they need.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about working as a team. It's all about communication. But obviously, we haven't spoken in like over a month.
We haven't. Like you're rocking that tan from Turkey. You've been back. How about a week now you've been back?
It feels like so long. But yeah, it's been less than a week. We got back. Has it been less than a week? No, just over a week. We're about a week and a half. We got back that Sunday just gone, and then we got back, did 2 weddings, and it's straight back into things.
That's back to reality of a bump, that, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
2 weddings within a week of coming back. That's
it's a well-timed holiday because we always try and do something in the middle of wedding season just so we're not getting exhausted. We find that when we talk to a lot of suppliers in August, they're all exhausted, they're tired, they're done with the wedding season by that point. And so I feel like I'm that sort of person as well. So I try and have a break in the middle where I can't do anything to do with weddings, just get rid of that out of my mind completely. It was an all-inclusive in Turkey. We just sat by a pool, we drank alcohol, we read books and just sort of chilled. And that, I think, is really nice. And I come back feeling much more refreshed. Like in the last podcast episode, I remember I've started it with, I'm so tired right now. But now I'm feeling like energized and ready to go, despite the fact that I've done a couple of like challenging weddings recently. So.
Then you find when that break's coming as well, though, and you always like that probably week leading up to it, you're kind of like, oh, why did I do this thing? Like, I've so much to do. Like, why did I think that taking a break was a good thing to
Everyone's
do?
chasing you for things before you go.
I think you set yourself, and I said this in the episode before, is you set yourself a natural deadline to go, I need to get at least this done before I go, or those weddings need to be done in order to be out on time, or those emails need to be answered, or those meetings need to be had. And I always do it up to normally like the day before I fly. I'm like tearing my hair out or what hair I've got to go kind of, why did I ever think a good idea was booking a holiday at this time of year? But the second that I'm there or when I get back, I'm like, no, it's exactly why I took that break. And
yeah, exactly. Yeah, you feel a lot different and you start approaching things the way that you should again. I find that sometimes as a few weddings go on, and especially before our holiday, we had one of our busiest weeks, like 5 weddings in 7 days or 8 days or something. And just the way it worked out. But then I found by the last one, I'm sort of like letting the photographer do more work than I normally would in terms of the couple shoot, because normally like we'd get involved a little bit and stuff like that. But yeah, it's finding the energy and the motivation and the creativity to be like, oh, I didn't do this, even though I did this at the last wedding, I still need to do it again because it's a different wedding. So.
I think that's it. It's kind of remembering, isn't it? I think that's something not to lose sight of. And I found this particularly during probably last year when I was doing that real volume of kind of catch up is not losing sight of the fact that you are super tired or you were at 2 weddings already. This is your 3rd wedding of the week. But to them, it's still that one and only day. And you've got to turn up as if that is their day. Yeah. And it is hard sometimes if you are really tired or, you've driven miles and miles to get there or there's loads of drama going on at home or whatever. And sometimes it's kind of, but I find that that's the stuff that I beat myself up more about is that, I should have, I should have done that. Like, I should have remembered, like, it's silly things like...
On your journey home.
Do a bridal portrait by a window and forget to turn the lights off in the room.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's such a small notice, but the couple probably won't notice. No. It'll give me a bit more of a pain.
When you're editing.
In editing, because I've got that kind of like warm orangey backlit against the...
I'm like that with groom prep.
I keep forgetting
to turn the lights off during groom prep.
And it's kind of like... I kind of give myself a real kind of like a real talking down about stuff like that on the way home. It's like, it doesn't matter that you're tired. You should know this stuff. Like, you should know, you've been doing this long enough now that it's stuff like that should just be ingrained in your brain. That's part of that. You know, the same way that you set your ISO to do that portrait, you should remember, just turn the freaking lights off.
Exactly. So how has it been for you so far? Because I remember last time you saying you were on top of things and like,
that's gone. That's long gone. I feel like in this kind of month since we recorded last, the weddings that I've been shooting have been great. I'm not going to lie. I feel like last year wasn't particularly kind to me for golden hours, where I feel like they saved them all up and have just given me 2 years worth this year. Like, I've been having some of the best sunsets and golden hours that I've ever had, or I can remember, or maybe I'm just dealing with them better, but I really feel like that sunset content I've had, my cup is full of that, which is really, really good. It's my favourite time of the day to shoot. We had a
few weeks of some really good sunsets.
And we've had some really warm weather as well, which I think has been testing. But to know that you're going to get paid back for that in really nice light to shoot in at the end of the day has been good. So the weddings that I've been at, I've been really well looked after by my couples and their families, which is really, really lovely. I think out of kind of the 4 or 5 weddings that I've done, I've been sat at tables with guests for 3 of them, which, try and do speeches on 3 courses though is rough. Like, first world problems, but once you've found room for the dessert, to have to try and get up and kneel in front of a top table to shoot speeches and stuff.
You love being at a table, don't you? That's my idea of a nightmare, having 3 weddings when we're at a table. Yeah, I don't want to socialise. I want to like sit and just chill and just.
I feel like I need that sometimes, but as long as you're sat with good people, I kind of feel like by the time I've got through dinner, I've got new friends.
Yeah,
and going back out,
I trust you more. Afterwards. Yeah.
And trying to do, especially in summer weddings where it doesn't get dark till so late, is you almost get a second round of candids where they come out of the dinner room and stand outside or do whatever, and you've always got like another hour then or hour and a half before first dance. And I even found at a couple of those weddings it was so bright that I was saving my family formals until then. Yeah. Like, I was at a venue outdoors and it's like trying to do group photos at 2:00. You know, sun's overhead, there's no shade anywhere. And I'm like, well, I can do them now because that's when people think you should probably do them.
Yeah.
But I'm going to be fighting a losing battle. Everyone's going to be squinting. You know, it's like, so you say to a couple, well, want me to do them later? And it's been really nice, actually. You can't do it in the autumn because it'll be dark.
Yeah.
But everyone's
that's what I like about summer weddings most, I think, is the fact that you have a bit more time to do things.
And people are almost more receptive to it then.
Yeah.
Like, again, they're like me trying to get up for the speeches. Like, they've had their 3 courses, they've had their table wine, and they're feeling a little bit more lethargic. So trying to catch people to go, can you just come and stand here and smile, is a lot easier than kind of them when they're kind of all happy out of the ceremony and wanting to see their family members and chase the canapé person around to get that Scotch egg that they've had their eye on or whatever. And it's much more of a distraction or inconvenience to take them away in that first round of it, where after dinner they're a little bit easier to catch because they're full of food.
No, that makes sense. Yeah, I prefer doing stuff in the evening during the summer, I think, because people, like you say, I think giving people an extra boost as well, like giving people a reason to go and do something rather than just slumping in a chair.
And also as well, like, selfishly, is I think like that time is like dreaded amongst photographers and videographers, is like the lull.
The lull, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you like from then you've been like prep, ceremony, drinks, groups, rah, rah, rah. And then it's like the long wait to first dance, you know, like, and if you do have an earlier ceremony and you find that you're through dinner and speeches by 5, sometimes that gap can be like 2 hours long.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always work. If you do like hotel weddings, it's prime time for people to slope off to their rooms or go check in or whatever. Yeah. But I must admit, I don't do that many hotel weddings anymore, so I've never found that problem. Same. Is that people just do want to come out and kind of sit and lull and kind of just say kind of be, and almost have like a second kind of round of candids and kind of drinks.
Yeah.
So for me, it fills that time really nicely, that by the time I've done my groups, I can go and do that. Then it's probably a battery change, a quick scout for sunset, making sure the sun's going to come down where you think it's going to. Have a chat with the DJ because he's set up, and make sure that, you know, kind of their timings are online for first dance. And that time doesn't feel like a lull. So when I'm trying to find my energy again for the evening, I don't feel like I've just kind of like wandered around for an hour trying to fill my time and looking at my watch going, oh, it's first dance.
Making the most of it, aren't you? Yeah.
And so once first dance arrives, you're like, boom, we're in. And it's, I've never found in summer weddings that I could have easily stayed to the end. Like, I had a couple of weddings this year where I've walked away at 10:10, thinking, well, there's only 45 minutes left.
Yeah.
And I've got more than enough dancing for the gallery, you know, or people have only just started to come back in because they've been outside, and it's been really, really nice. And I kind of think, I don't know what, like an extra 45 minutes now, like I kind of feel like I could stay, or and there's some weddings that I've wanted to, or others, you know, to get home and whatever. But I've never really felt that before. I think a lot of times I've done my hour after first dance, and there's been everyone's emptied the dance hall to go and get evening food or whatever. But I found that there's been, for summer, I've had a couple of earlier first dances. And then, so people have kind of had that and then come back in sooner. And I've almost felt like those people that do offer like full day coverage, like to the bitter end, I've always wondered how they do it.
Yeah.
But maybe the weddings that I'm shooting at maybe are slightly different, or just kind of the way that I've approached it has been slightly different, where I've felt, do you know what, I could easily say something.
Yeah, if you're getting treated well and you think the vibe is there, then you're much more likely to be like, have the positive energies that then want to stay.
Or I think as well that the days just felt like it's gone quicker.
Yeah.
Like if you have that real kind of 90 minutes of where it is visibly quieter, or like say you're at a hotel and everyone goes back to their rooms, you feel you're literally struggling to make content that time, or just you are literally just waiting around.
Yeah.
It drains you. So by the time the first dance comes, you're kind of like, I want to get this dancing done, and kind of you feel like you're ready to go home.
Yeah.
Where I think because I've almost worked straight through that part, I'm looking at my watch going, crap, it's 9:20 already. But it doesn't feel like I don't.
Yeah,
like mentally, I'm not drained enough to go. Like I don't feel like it's time to go home.
I feel like it comes from having those sunsets as well, though, because they take time that you didn't even realise you had. Because I mean, we've done first dances and then gone off to do a sunset shoot, and like you say, we'll look at a watch and it's like 9:30, and I'm like, I'll say I leave a few songs after the first dance. It's now an hour afterwards, sort of thing. But everything has been worth it because we know we've got enough for them. And yet, when people ask me, because we're quite specific on we leave a few songs after the first dance, couples will say, oh, can we pay extra so that you can capture more of the dancing? I'll say you can, but I don't recommend it, because if everyone leaves the dance floor, you've paid extra for nothing. Particularly
in the summer, like I had a band that played to almost nobody a few weeks ago, because it was just so nice outside that they were, you know, their first set more or less was they were playing to the kids that were doing knee slides, and that was it. And again, DJs that are, and I think as long as they're kind of aware that they're not doing anything wrong, it's just the vibe of that day. It's always going to be like that.
Yeah, but I feel pretty much the same as you. Like I was pretty much up to date before the holiday. I come back, well, just the week before the holiday when we had that really busy week, everything just piled up, and like obviously you don't have time to edit when you're filming that much. And the same is going to be true this month. I've put in my little editing queue thing on my client area on my website. Don't expect a lot of editing to get done this month, because I've got so many weddings that all the days that I'm not filming are going to be wedding fairs and admin and all that sort of stuff. So I might get a highlights done in a week or something like that, and we've had to sort of put that out. But in general, pretty similar experiences. Like we're starting to film couples that, well, I say starting to. All of our couples this year have been couples that we, you know, really enjoy working with. That's a really positive thing, and I feel like that comes through, you know, vetting people and targeting specific people and having a specific brand, everything. Everyone's been so nice. We've had recently we've had a couple of challenging situations, which is probably worth talking about. One of them was multiple locations, simple as that. Like just we try not to do multiple location weddings, and this one was just so hectic. You know, bride prep and groom prep in one place, and then off to a cathedral, and then off to a venue after that, and the amount of setting up and taking down and everything. I've always envied photographer for this, because you just check your camera.
But even so, though, like for me, it's literally putting two lens caps on, and also like useful hack as well, which I learned from somebody who escapes me at the moment. But like taking my cameras off and strapping them in the seat next to me like a child is the easiest thing in the world. Like rather than pack them back in my bag, literally get in my car, unhook them from my hold fast, I sit them in the seat, and then put the seatbelt across them and pull it tight. So like across the tops of my lenses. So they're just there next to me. So
and me and Kate,
my cameras are like in sight, I've got them. But even still, that journey from prep to a church, or like church to a venue, is probably some of the most terrifying parts of my job. Like people that aren't wedding photographers go, oh, I don't know how you deal with the pressure of that day. Like missing a first kiss is nothing to being sat in a traffic jam 15 minutes before a ceremony starts. Like that's like makes me want to go like GTA style, like mount the pavements and like do stuff like that, or abandon my car and run or something like.
But with this one, they were like, oh, can you get shots of the cathedral on the drone? And it's like we had to wait then for the coach outside to obviously leave, otherwise there's going to be a coach right in front of the cathedral. So every guest had left before we could even get the drone out. Got the drone, obviously we got there thinking that all the guests were already going to be there, everything was going to be done and everything. Luckily, I think the coach took a detour or something, so it was a little bit late, or the couple was a little bit late. So it ended up being okay, but it was really hectic, and we got so tired. And that was the day before we flew out as well, which is typical. So definitely needed that relaxation of the holiday. But then coming back, I think, you know, we get on with 99% of photographers we work with now. Our style sort of works around photography. we don't really get involved in the things that really need to be done by photographers, like the group shots and things like that. I feel like, I don't want to be big-headed, but I feel like that we work well with photographers.
I've always found you, again, even when we didn't know each other as well as we do now, is that you've always been, really happy to have that conversation and wanting to work together. You've never been, I want these shots, more or less make it happen for me, or you've always been willing to work with and been really good at communicating what you need to.
And that's the aim, really. It's just I properly respect photographers. One of my favourite parts of the job is working with photographers, and one of the reasons I'm not a photographer is because I'll be working on my own. And do you know what I mean? I actually really like that teamwork sort of situation. But there's been a couple recently that we've just not gelled with as much, not on a personal level. We get on with everyone on a personal level, but in terms of the work respect level, and we spoke about it off camera before, but in terms of just turning up to a photographer turning up to a day and wanting this specific thing, and realizing that they may not be able to get that one specific shot because we are there, and then that creating just a whole lot of animosity. And
I don't see it as your fault that they can't get that shot. In the moment, I'm sure I've probably called some photographers some choice words under my breath. And we'll come to that in kind of some of the questions you ask a bit later on. But you've just got to understand that us as photographers are in a lovely position where I probably shoot, it's probably getting towards half and half now.
Yeah.
Half of my weddings I work with videographers, half of them I work by myself.
Okay.
And you'd be very naive to think that the photos that you take aren't different. You have to consider that other photographer. In the same way that if you shot with a second, you have to consider that second's still going to be in some of your photos. It's just, there's another body there. So you either, I see it as you either have a choice, you either embrace it and go, they're going to be my photos, that's it. The couple book them, if they're in it, they hide them. It's kind of, they've got to expect to see that. Like if I'm at the top of an aisle photographing a couple, they've got to expect to see your tripod or, to see Kate in the aisle.
Yeah.
It's part of it. And you need that long shot.
I edited the video that you were photographing not long ago, and Kate's shot is from the back of the aisle and you're in it, behind the couple. But that literally doesn't bother me. They've hired you.
And that's it. And if they have a choice at that point, they either don't have me in it and don't have any photos, or, they see my smiley little face and my camera moving around.
Yeah.
And then they have both to enjoy, and they should be aware that because they've booked both, that is very much going to be a thing. And AI is not there with video yet that you can't remove me, but I have that power that as long as I shoot in a certain way, I could get rid of the videographer if I want to.
But I feel like it all comes down to communication. Obviously, we've spoken about this, but the communication needs to happen before the chaos, basically. And I feel like if you want something it's not like you need to ask, but if I am in the way, it's not a case of being like, can you get out of the way, please? I need to get my shot. It's like, oh, where do you need to be? And and I feel like with this specific situation, it was, I need my shot. Can you not be here? And it's like, well, I need this shot as well.
And I think if you're that point that you can't play nice with people,
yeah,
stick it in your contract you don't work with videographers, and be prepared that for a chunk of weddings, people aren't going to book you because they want both.
Yeah.
Or just learn to play nice.
Yeah.
Like, it's not always going to be your day. I know, and I can say, you know, almost definitely there have been weddings where they've had videographers where there's certain shots that I could have foreseen. Yeah. And I know that I just physically can't get there because there's a tripod there, or there's an obstruction, or that's always going to be a thing. And you just have to, I think, accept to go, no, that person is making them a film which is of equal value to my photos. Yeah. The couple are going to love their film as much as my photo. So I see it as a challenge to find a way around it, to find a compromise of something which still looks good to deliver to the couple, but also as being respectful to the video guy. Because if you absolutely ruin their video, you've not ruined it for them, you've ruined it for your couple.
Yeah.
And you think, you know, I kind of wouldn't want to do that to them on a personal level, kind of feel that in order to elevate myself, the only way I've been able to do that is kind of sabotage somebody else.
Yeah.
And I just morally wouldn't feel like that was the thing. And also, your couple don't know what you deliver, or they don't know that there wasn't the wide shot.
One shot.
Because the videographer was in it, and you just shoot tighter. And they're still happy with what you produce because they're in it. It's a great photo. They love it. And just because that's not like you didn't get it, it's like you can't sell yourself and go, I'm a sunset wedding photographer, because you might not always get a golden hour.
Yeah.
And if you don't, they can't turn around to you and go, I want my money back because the sunset didn't happen. And it's the same thing where if they're not going to, I would really be surprised if a couple came back and was like, we don't like our photos because there's a videographer stood in the background. And it's like, you hired them.
So this is the thing, like one of the main things that like I think caused us to be like, okay, we probably need to talk through things a bit more, is the fact that one, we have a videographer sort of, which is normally Kate in the aisle but at the back sort of thing. Yeah. And bear in mind that the day before this wedding, we worked with a photographer who was stood in between the bride and the groom taking photos. Yeah. So like she was in our whole video, whatever, that's it. It is what it is. Kate's at the back, in the aisle, like between the guests with the camera. Photographer wanted a wide shot from the back, couldn't get it because Kate was there, and instead just took, this is going to out me, but instead just took photos of Kate's back without any, like, obviously it's not going to get going in the gallery, but I think it was just approved maybe to the couple. But I don't know, if I knew beforehand, I'd have been like, okay, if you can stand further back and zoom in a bit more or something like that. All it needs is like a little bit of...
But if they'd had that conversation with you, because that tripod would have been set up well before the ceremony started.
Yeah.
If they'd have come over and said, this is going to be a problem, is there any chance you can do this?
I think
to offer a compromise, I think is much better than going, you're the problem.
I said to them beforehand, we've got 3 cameras, like, you're going to be in the shots, don't bother. Like, if you get in the shot, don't worry about it. Yeah. That's what I say to photographers. Like, we've got the whole room covered, you're going to be in the shot. So
there's no way around it.
Yeah.
But I must admit, as a photographer, I always find that, and particularly maybe it's more during speeches, because I like to move around a bit, where in ceremonies, maybe I'm a little bit more static, it would still bother me to think that I know you've got another 2 cameras, but I would hate to kind of feel like I'm literally stood in front of your camera.
Yeah.
You know, kind of doing that, and like, because you're blocking that as an avenue, you know, kind of for you. But my main thing is, I don't think the couple would know. Do you know what I mean? Like,
exactly,
if you just because that's how you always do it, doesn't mean that that's the way it should be done.
Yeah.
And I can't say, even like, maybe a good example is, so this month, I think from the 7th of June when I shot my first wedding there through to the 1st of July, I've shot 4 weddings in the same venue.
Yeah.
In this month.
Yeah.
And I got another one there now to September.
Yeah.
But to shoot in the same place, it's a venue that I love, so it really helps. But creatively, I could have easily turned up and pretty much done the same shots 4 times over.
There might be
this
some
is the spot for this.
shots,
But I didn't.
Yeah.
There might be couples naturally, because there were ceremonies in the same room or the same place, that are going to overlap, and because that's the best place to be. But I actively, for my own integrity or creativity, read the couple as people and gone, what do they want out of this? What are we looking at? And tried to make different photos, so that if you put, you know, the couple shoots from those 3 weddings together, it wasn't just the people that changed. The dynamic was slightly different. We went to a slightly different location. I was like, okay, I'll take them to that place, or I can take my couple tomorrow to that place, to kind of make them feel special, that they've got something different. And out of those 4 weddings, I worked with one of them with a videographer. So the way that you have to approach things is going to be different, because I wouldn't want to get... Or he said, oh, can we go here instead, because this would look better for my film. And he was someone that had never been to that venue before, for where it's somewhere that I work all the time. So I was kind of like, he was kind of leaning on me going, well, you know the best places. And I was like, but it doesn't matter. I almost don't want to take you to the best places. I want you to see it.
So you can do something
as a new venue in the same way that I love going to a new venue, because you might find me a better place that I never knew existed, because you're just looking at it with fresh eyes.
That's what we say to couples when they say, oh, have you not been to the venue before? Be like, no, but actually that's probably a good thing, especially if your photographer has been a lot, is that we might offer some alternative like positions and places.
And so I was definitely leaning on him to go, well, tell me how you see it. Tell me where you can find to go, because you might find me a nice new space, knowing that I was going back another twice this month to do that. And that gallery had to be different, because I had to consider him as well. And I don't think that they'll love their gallery any less than the couple that I shot the day after theirs at the same venue, because they'll feel, oh, well, they had it better because you weren't trying to get round the
They're
videographer.
Not be like, oh, but you didn't get that shot that you got at the last one.
I don't think they are. And I think because wedding photography sits in a really unique place, that because you are photographing for your client. I mean, if you're a commercial photographer, they hire a model to do an advert or whatever. The client stands back and looks at it subjectively because it's not them in it. Where with wedding photography, people are hiring you for them. And it's not an excuse to do a shit job. But if you could take a subpar photo of someone's granny, but because it's their granny, they'll love it. That's granny, she's amazing. The fact that there's like some stuff going on in the background, or it's like there's some questionable composition going on, the moment trumps that, because it's their granny. If you just showed them a picture of a random old lady sat in a chair like sobbing, they might not have the same reaction to it. So it's always content driven, I think, rather than, you're not looking to make that
100%.
perfect
it's
thing.
About what's in it rather than like the framing and the things that are important to you. Maybe.
I think essentially, and this is probably the kind of the tied-in point for all of it, is you're working for the greater good. Like, if I see a moment, or for example, like the speeches are about to start, if I was the one in the toilet or at my car, I would expect that videographer to come over to me and go, look, mate, speeches are starting. You want me to get back in there?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Rather than go, just I'm gonna start speeches.
I would never do anything without.
It's a problem. He missed it. He knows what times are. Like, because I would know that couple would be gutted.
Yeah.
If they didn't have the speeches.
I've had to like grab the photographer for the cutting of the cake or something.
Yeah, I know it's not.
I had to break a photographer out of a toilet cubicle because they got locked in the toilet cubicle, and I called and was like, cake cuttings, mate. He's like, yeah, I'm locked in the toilet, mate. And we had to like kick the door down. And
that all comes to, although that, you know, you rock up and meet that person in the morning of a wedding.
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't always know that they, like, I had a wedding with Harry, you know, Harry Hyam, a shout out to Harry. So I shot a wedding with him for the first time in October.
Yeah.
And the couple did not tell me they'd booked a videographer.
You said you turned up.
So I walk in, so like, there was kind of through the venue to get to bridal prep. So I'll go in just to kind of have a look round. And there's Harry, like, knelt down on the floor, like, camera bag open, like, unpacking his stuff. And I kind of was like, you all right, mate? Like, in the politest possible way. Like, who the hell are you? He's like, oh, I'm the videographer. And I'm like, no, that's fine. And we had a little chat before we both went to prep together then. And despite never working with him before, never knowing him before, we had a really nice day together in the end. Yeah. And I maybe mentally hadn't prepared myself that I was going to have to someone else to share the day with, you know, kind of, I'd have to consider a videographer. But on the day, we turned up, we made it work. And now Harry's, you know, someone that I speak to all the time and we're going to work with in the future and stuff like that. So it's not an excuse that, you know, you can't go into a wedding with a very set idea of how you're going to make things. You know, if you got a guest that had a video camera that wanted to dart around, in some ways they can be a bigger interruption than an actual videographer could be. Or if you've got a registrar that wants to stand in the middle of the aisle or stand in your way, or a vicar that tells you can only stand in one spot. All of those things are barriers to you making your shot. So if a photographer turns around to you and says, well, you're in my way, out of it, would they say that to the registrar? Or would they say that to the vicar? Like, I know you're doing the ceremony, but can you just leave because you're ruining my photo? Like,
it's really interesting how, like, because I think we've covered one of the questions there is that one of the questions was, do you work do you work differently when a videographer is there? And I think you've pretty much covered that. Like, you can work differently. Like, you try and
I think you would be very naive to think, like, I know, because I shoot by myself. I actively like shooting by myself over having a second. Yeah. I'll probably have issues somewhere of control, or I know that I've shot it, I've done it. For style reasons, everything's consistent. I like to shoot by myself. So I know that within reason, on their wedding day, I can stand where I like, I can be where I like, and I haven't got anybody else's camera line to consider on a wedding that I shoot by myself. When I work with a videographer, I have to consider them.
Yeah.
I have to consider that they need to be, a lot of times, in the same place as I'm stood, or we need to work together on that to make sure that, one, equally, I don't end up in their film too much, or also that they don't go into business themselves and go, okay, I need to stand here, and like, you're in that nice spot you've worked out for yourself, and they can't plonk a tripod right in the middle of it. And so you naturally shoot that wedding day differently.
I think the point is mutual compromise, because you guys have that where you're saying sometimes you might need to compromise if there's a videographer there.
Yeah.
With being a videographer, there's always a photographer there. So I was literally thinking this probably on the way up here, that like, we're technically compromising at every wedding that we go to, because there are shots that we might want to get but we can't because the photographer's taking them here, or like they're done with a couple shoot by the time it's like we've got a chance to do anything. So we're technically compromising all the time. Not that's a bad thing. We obviously we do a lot of things like right off the photographer's posing and stuff like that. So it's not like, I'm not saying it's bad, but I'm saying that maybe there's photographers that aren't used to compromising because they're doing all the.
I would say that's true. Yeah, they're used to working in their own bubble.
Yeah.
But in that respect, I think it's firmly up to those photographers. They need to evolve. Video isn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
It's not going anywhere. If anything, it's going to become more prevalent in our industry. And, you know, I firmly believe that, you know, we've got an episode about, you know, wedding photography in the year 3000 and where that's going to look like, what the future we think is like, is that as I think, you know, VR, AI, all of those things start to become parts of weddings, the presence of more cameras or other suppliers is only going to get more prevalent. And if you can't learn to work nicely with other people, and also even in the near future, you won't have a future in this job.
Yeah, because photographers have had to adjust to videographers coming into things, and there's, you know, videographers on the pages like saying, oh, this photographer did this and whatever. But then those same people are now posting, oh, this content creator's got in my way of this. And the content creator is going to be the new thing, right? Probably. Like, it might be a fad, but it might be something that it becomes the third person that's then going to be there. And we're going to have to work, we're both going to have to work around them.
But I think at the moment it's because the content creator thing is so new.
Yeah.
It's learning to have that conversation, or we see them as a splurge on our business of, they're going to produce unedited photos the next day, and guests have been doing it for years. They're just a hired person that does that same thing.
Yeah.
But if in some ways it's better, because if you can say to that content creator, again, the same conversations that I have with videographers or you have with photographers, look, mate, we're all here to do the same job. We all need to work nicely together.
Yeah.
So we all get the best stuff for them. And I know you need to run around with your phone in your hand and do whatever, but we still need to. You just need to get your gimbal shot of this. I still need to get my photos of this. And that conversation, we just need to start having that in the same way that we have it with each other.
Definitely.
It needs to just happen with the content creators, rather than, it's really easy to be mean or be hateful towards people, isn't it? And make it somebody else's problem.
You're not used to, And
I think it's the same thing and I always said this about business, is that once more than one person asks you the same question, it probably means that you haven't communicated that well enough, not that they're the idiot.
Yeah.
And so I think if you're working with videographers and you're constantly having to huff at them or moan that they're in your way, then you maybe need to change your channel of thought of
initial communication, or
am I giving them enough preliminary warning communication to go, this is what I'd really like to do. Is there a way that we can both get what we need and get a solution that works for the couple and us?
So I was telling you before this that my rule, and again, this might be controversial to some photographers, but my rule is ask permission, because I genuinely think that, like, a lot of couples prefer to have specific photos than they prefer to have specific video shots. Yeah. Because obviously photographers, they get sent like the list of like, they want these shots and whatever. Yeah. So always ask permission first. For example, let's say a confetti shot, a long aisle, two rows or whatever, bride and groom coming down. I'll say, if I want to, I'll say, can I gimbal down it? Can we go down and can we gimbal down it? Go side by side and get some shots together. If the photographer says no, then I'll ask for compromise. So like, maybe can we start halfway, or I'll gimbal a bit of the way and I'll run back and then you can get your shot from the back or whatever. Yeah. If they say no again, at this point, like, there's no working together. You've tried to be polite. I say free for all at that point.
You've tried to be polite. You've tried to be nice. Yeah. And if it doesn't fall on deaf ears, you've got to do what's right for your business in that point, knowing that you've made every opportunity to try and work nicely in that situation.
Yeah. It's not the same with every time. Like, because I might work with someone who I respect really well, but they really want to get that shot from the back. In which case, I'll be like, But if they just like, no, mate, I need this shot. So,
but I think it's just allowing flexibility, isn't it? Yeah. Like, my style is, of photography is, I call it, documentary, natural, unpost, whatever. My style isn't, I have to use an 85mm statically and people move in and out of my frame. So if I, at one wedding, go, do you know what, it's a really long confetti aisle, I can use a long lens, let them come to me, so I get my full lengths and then get my nearer shots as they get nearer. That's great. But my couple I don't think are going to turn around and say, if I have to use a 35 and link arms with the videographer and us walk back together, they're going to go, I really wanted my feet in that confetti. You haven't done it. They're just going to love, they've got a colourful confetti moment.
But most of my couple shots are quite close up, because photographers generally use a 35mm and can shoot portrait and have that whole, that full body shot of them walking or whatever. Yeah. Whereas I've got a 50mm and have to shoot horizontal and I can't get behind the photographer. So I'm getting top half normally. So most of my couple shots end up being close-ups. And that's fine. That's just part of it. And I
think for me, one of the biggest revelations of that is, up until, this is probably 3 or 4 years ago now, I worked with a videographer in London whose name currently escapes me. But him just saying to me that idea of, we were doing a confetti and it being, what you shooting with, what you on? And that was our conversation in those kind of tight moments for a lot of days, is what you want. Because he was changing lenses quite a lot, where I'm always set more on a 35 and an 85. Yeah. And it's like, 35? Yeah, I can work with 35. I've got 35 on. So that if you stand next to each other, you're never going to be in each other's frames. Yeah. And so that's something which I've used, particularly if you haven't had a chance to have that conversation, or in quite a quick moment, like we're doing this, what are you shooting on? And if you go, I'm on 50, I know that you can kind of match. Or if you turn around and go, I'm on 200, and I'm on 35, there's going to be a problem trying to get this stuff. So, and that is just kind of a really quick kind of way, if you're in a pinch, to go, just to kind of match.
This is how we're going to do it.
This is how we're going to do it. And it's really funny. I worked with a new videographer that I'd never worked with before at the wedding at Wickham. He was a guy called Josh. I'm going to shout Josh out. Josh is from Blooming Moments Films. He's down in Cornwall. Really, really nice dude. And I don't think, I maybe didn't communicate myself the best. So we get confetti. I go, oh, what you want? He's like, I want a Canon R6, mate. I'm like, that doesn't really work. I was like, and maybe, and again, I was like, no, like focal length. Okay, that makes sense. I'm on this.
Focal lengths are important, I think.
And I think that in kind of the most primitive form of a conversation that you can have is the easiest way to not get in each other's way.
Yeah.
You know, you find a lot of photographers, like he, for example, shot most of the day on a 50.
Yeah.
So I knew that at my 35,
yeah.
as long as I'm just tucked a little bit, I'm kind of in line with him. He's not really going to be in my shot.
Yeah.
Or if I want to go on the 85 and shoot from a side on, I know that he's going to be in front of me. So it's my job then just to make sure that he's not clipping in my frame and get whatever. But because you only work with 2 focal lengths, it's quite easy to go, okay, I can go long and then shoot from behind you because I know I'm going to get a similar frame.
Yeah.
Or we can link arms in like a walking moment, or we can walk next to each other. And for the most part, we shouldn't be in each other's frames, and we should both get a very similar frame.
Exactly. I think that's the perfect way to work together, to be honest. And this leads me on, like, talking about like working together and like the couple shoot and things like that. Is that I listen to photography podcasts as well, and I've listened to one set of photographers say it's not my job to tell the videographer when the couple shoot is. Stop asking me. And I've also listened to another podcast where they've said, "Oh, the videographer's so far down the pecking order," so making the photographer like the person who's in charge, essentially, right? Do you think it's your responsibility? Because I personally do. Do you think it's your responsibility to tell the videographer when it's time for the couple shoot if you're taking them away?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. People would say that you're down a pecking order. Like, again, you can stick an E on this. I think that's bollocks. I literally think it's bollocks. Yeah. Again, like I've said all the way through this episode, we are both there to do a job.
Yeah.
That couple have probably paid you a similar amount of money, or however, they have paid you money to make them that film.
Yeah.
And I would like to think that if I, as a photographer, took the couple off for a couple shoot, they would say to me, "Where's the videographer?"
Yeah, so this rarely happens.
And I find that bonkers, that they would not think, well, maybe we would want this.
Well, I think a couple doesn't know.
Or they wouldn't want to go out twice.
Yeah, that's the truth.
And particularly at sunsets and stuff, you're working in such a tight window as it is to get what you need. I'm not saying that I would lose my shot to go and find you. Like, if something was happening, like something impromptu happened and you weren't around, and it was something really quick, like, you know, like someone started juggling or something, I'm not going to spend my time missing the shot to find you, but I know roughly what time
if it's like a set-up couple
I know
shoot,
roughly what time I'm going to go for couple shoots, and that'll be communicated in that preliminary chat at the start of the day or throughout prep. Someone will say to me, "Oh, what are we doing?" "Okay, I normally do 2 couple shoots, one before dinner and one at sunset. We'll do this." So roughly, you know, if you're around. But I would always make sure, you know, I normally know when I'm going to take my couple for sunset. I've normally gone out, had a little look, and I like to get them about right. I never normally go up to a couple and go, "We're going now."
Yeah.
I know that the bride will want to maybe put her veil back in if she's taken it out at sunset.
There's always a bit of time.
Or the groom will want to find his jacket, or she'll want to adjust her lippy. So in that 5 minutes, if I can't see the videographer, I've got that 5 minutes just to wander around.
It's the videographer's responsibility to be around.
And they should be around. I'm not saying I'm going to wander back to the car park and you know, and try and find out their car is, or if they're hiding in another bar. I'm not going to lose my moment to go and do it. But if I can see them inside the venue saying we're outside filming something, I would probably just out of politeness just go over and go, "Look, couple shoot's going to be in 5 minutes. We're going to head out this way. If you want to join, more than welcome. I'd never enforce that you had to go, but I'd like you to know that's where we're going to be with the couple. So we don't come back from our couple shoot and you be, "Oh, I've been looking for you to go and do this." Or I think probably the biggest takeaway is in any situations like that is try and think how you would feel if the boot was on the other foot.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Because if photographers want to work like that, I'm sure that if you get a reputation for being that way with videographers, they can easily turn it around on you. And you know, you come back from setting your lights up for the first dance, or come back from the loo and you think, "Can't find the couple." And if you wandered out and you found them at the bottom of the drive of the venue that you were at in gorgeous light, and they were getting this really cool like stuff of them content, and you were like,
and you weren't there,
"Man, it can't find me."
You'd be gutted, wouldn't you?
You can't be upset about that when you've just turned around and said, "Well, video for so far down the pecking order, they can look after themselves."
I've got to admit, it doesn't really happen anymore. Photographers become much better at that, I think. And I respect the photographer as the leader of the day. I think that, you know, you have a lot of direction.
I've always found this a myth as well, though, I think there are different points of the day where different people need to lead.
Yeah, between that and the coordinator. Like, I think during the reception drinks, generally, I take the photographer's lead on, you know, do they need to do group shots, couple shots, that sort of thing. Because I always say to a couple, I'd much rather do your couple shots straight after the ceremony, but the photographer needs to get those group shots done, and you know they need everyone to be in one place. So I'm not going to interfere, and they're in as far as I'm concerned, the photographer's in charge of that little reception drink section. But
again, I kind of I don't subscribe to that. I never take any of my couples away to at least 15, 20 minutes after the ceremony. In terms of just kind of natural momentum of a day, as someone that wants to photograph or harness kind of natural excitement, emotion, etc., the biggest time for people to get those kind of real warm hugs and all of the rest of it is straight after the ceremony.
Yeah, that's the best kind of
No
time,
one's spoken to the bride. So if I had a videographer that was like, literally, I want to get him down the aisle and whisk him straight away, I'd probably say, look, just give us 10 minutes. Like, the light's not going to change that much in that quarter of an hour. Or unless there's something really, really set that it has to be done, like, can you just leave them for a little bit?
See, I would say because they have a lot to catch up on at that point, and they're like happy they've just been married, that they're the best, rather than doing it after the group shots when they're fed up with doing photos. So I'd say that might be the best opportunity, and then they go back and do the husband,
but not to do a couple shoot. Like, I wouldn't take a couple straight down the arm, take them off for a couple shoot, and then. I
mean, we don't do it, but the times we have done it, it's been better.
Like, or if you're going to do it if like the venue ceremony is kind of separate from where they're going for drinks. You could take them a detour to get to the drinks, and then that would be okay.
Yeah.
But to take them off for like a full 20-minute photo shoot straight after ceremony, that kind of like moment with the guests for me is gone.
I think
so. I kind of, but then that's why I always do my first couple shoot normally as the other guests are seating for dinner. Yeah. Because that always takes time to get guests, up from wherever the drinks are, find the table plan, read it, realise they're on table 7, not have a damn clue where table 7 is. Someone always wants to light a cigarette 2 minutes before they're due to seat. Someone always wants to go for a wee. That time always takes 15 minutes, roughly.
The problem I have with that is that the venues are getting really strict on it now. So they'll be getting them in like 10 minutes, and then they'll be like, come on, like tapping their watch next to you, and it's like.
But again, I almost feel like I cover myself in that, is that I'll go into a venue 10 minutes before they're going to start opening the doors or whatever, and more or less just say to them then, you don't need them, looked at the plan, time says this time, we're back this time. Yeah, okay.
We did that wedding.
And more or less, we got 15 minutes. Yeah, we did that wedding at Berry Court and it didn't work like that.
Didn't work out.
And it was really, really quick. But I think we were lucky that we had a really nice sunset, and we definitely took our time at the other end. And again, I may be learning as a videographer, you need more time in that moment than I do.
Yeah.
Like normally that couple shoot, then it's really quite quick. 10 minutes at most normally. Because summer weddings particularly, the light's not great that time of day.
No, exactly.
I'm literally doing that couple shoot.
They're safety shots, aren't they?
To provide me with an insurance policy that if the heavens open in the later, we've got some shots of them. Or if there's 2 places of the venue that are nice, get those bits the nice places that aren't in the golden hour zone at that time. So then
you're going to be over there for golden hour.
Rather than just do the same shoot twice in different lights, kind of I'll use maybe the front of the venue if it's nice looking in the day, and then go out to the ground at the back for golden hour.
It's really interesting that you've been so specific about that. Like, yes, that is your responsibility. Obviously, it's a videographer's responsibility to be around. If the videographer wants to take them out, they should also tell the photographer, I think.
I think
it's
so.
Not like...
Or if you say to me, we're going to go and do this thing with them, and I go, I don't need that. That's very much movement based or based on, like a lot of times, I'll shoot what I need. But if you, and maybe not so much you, because you rely kind of maybe on a more natural thing, but I have some videographers that have maybe a much more set, what's the right word to use? Maybe not. I'm going to use role play as the best answer. When they say like, we're going to get a couple, like I want the groom to maybe walk a little bit ahead of the bride, then stop and look back, bride catches up. Almost like they give them kind of a set scene that they would like them to do. For me, who thrives on the idea of kind of real moments and natural moments, I know that that's not. For me, there's nothing in it. I could get some shots of it, maybe the bit of the kiss at the end or whatever, but like the kind of like the wistful walking and stuff. I would rather just get a genuine walking shot of them.
I find it really interesting when photographers don't take photos when the videographer's directing. I think obviously you guys know what you want, but sometimes in my head I'm just like, this is a really fun moment. Like, why is no one to point?
I'll have a camera up.
I
might not always shoot it,
but it might not be.
But I'll always make sure that I've got a camera up.
I guess it's the same thing for video. Like, I'm not going to be. I'm just there shooting the group shots. So everyone going.
I find it kind of bonkers sometimes where you get videographers that spend so long with me during group shots. Again, with like bridal party stuff, you can get them to kind of walk, or like the flower arrays, or like animation between group shots I imagine is great for video. But I also think at that moment the bride and groom are missing out on stuff which is happening with their other guests.
If there's only one of it,
there would be some great candid stuff there, which they're missing out on, so they would want to see.
What I do is, if there's 2 of us, I'll try and like not be shooting the group shots, but hang around by there. So if there's a shot with like family, like each of their family, I would quickly get a snap of that just in case, because I'm not someone who like makes a note of everyone in the family and tries to get shots of them during the day. If I deliver the film, they're like, oh, my, you know, step brother's not in it. How am I supposed to know? So
and sometimes just for knowledge, I find that group shots are a great thing to find out who's who.
Yeah.
Sometimes, particularly with maybe the groom side, if you've maybe only got the first time you kind of catch up with him on the dates just before the ceremony and stuff like that, it's not always super evident who the groom's parents are. Well, you've normally seen dad walk the bride down the aisle, or you've met mum or the sisters in the morning as kind of bridal party. But it's really easy then to go, okay, well, that makes sense. That's mum and that's her new partner, that's stepdad. And you kind of start to build that dynamic, and you can see from group photos who's who. So when it comes round to a bit later on or during speeches or whatever, if I get a really nice close-up of, say, stepdad, like having a little moment in their reaction, you know that they're not just a +1 of a random friend, so that maybe the bride and groom don't really know who they are. It's easy to kind of just as knowledge building to do the group shots as much as anything else.
And I don't feel like we have that for video. So like that is a good moment for us to be around and be like, at least I've got a shot of everyone in this family just in case they come back. Because it has happened before. They've come back, oh, that Uncle Steve isn't in it. It's like, well, here's a video of a group shot of Uncle Steve in it. And it's like, it's not the best shot, but at least he's in the video now.
Or even something I imagine for you, like, again, I can only say I imagine I've never made a film, is that stuff I imagine almost makes good kind of transitional slides again. Like, the group photos are a part of the day. So if you're making kind of a highlight film, even there's one clip of kind of people like laughing together in a lineup, it still kind of touches on the fact that they were done and they are covered in the day. Although,
sometimes it's in betweeny moments where it's like you're lining them up, but they're like having a chat, and like someone's just like first time chatting to the groom, he's like slapping him on the back sort of thing. You know?
I think some of those bits like that kind of come across so much better in video.
Yeah, definitely.
That they don't come across in the photo. Like
you'd be like, what's going on there?
Although, whilst I still shoot my group photos pretty loosely, like I'm not very, you must stand here, your hands must be the same. It's more a case of getting people together and making them that they enjoy it. It doesn't have to be super rigid. My job is still to take a kind of set photograph of them. Where yours is, say, those transitional moments.
But also some photographers they do the look at each other and talk for pretty much every group shot. And that works so good for video. And it's not obviously natural, but it looks natural on video. And so, like, even if it's just like, I don't know, like, some brothers and sisters, maybe they're not all in the same sort of like bridal party dress up, get up or whatever. But even if it is just them all having a chat together, that's a pretty cool thing. Some photographers do that with every single group shot. Some of them do it with a few. Yeah,
I tend to just do it at a bridal party. Tend to. Because again, I kind of think a lot of times of, grandparents are a great one. They normally do it anyway because they're oblivious to what's going on. They don't care that you've got 6 others to do in this 10 minutes. Normally, sometimes it's the first time they've spoken to their granddaughter or whatever. And it's like, oh, having a photo taken. Oh, while I'm here, don't you look lovely? And they start to have that kind of chat. And that sometimes can be a really gold moment to get a natural moment of a bride and a grandparent together or whatever. But I think for video, it's important to be there. But like circling around to our first point, I think with a videographer, I agree that you've got more to get done. And to me, getting a shot in that moment, if you've got a set piece that you need to do where it does involve you panning in, them coming another way, I don't want to be in the way of you getting your shot because I want it done as quickly as possible so that we can move on to the next bit or whatever. But if there's something in it, I'll take it. But I don't feel the need to be.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
I wouldn't want to be in your way.
That leads me on to the next one, which comes from an anonymous source, definitely not me.
Okay.
Our group shots are really that bad?
Group shots are as bad as you want to make them.
Loads of photographers like shouting at me right now, like, yes.
That's my thing. Group photos are as bad as you want to make them.
Okay.
That's my thing on it. Over the years, it's probably one of the things that I'm not forceful with, but probably impressed the most on people. And maybe because of the style that I do, the couples that I photograph don't want loads.
Yeah.
As long as you're prepared for them, you've got lists of who you need, and you do them at the right time.
Yeah.
You get them done quickly. I don't think I've spent longer than 15 or 20 minutes on groups this year. Most of my group shots are done within 10 to 15 minutes.
I feel that they're always a bit of I don't really want to do this. But I feel like I have seen them done extremely well and also seen them done in a bit of a mess as well.
Again, I think when you do them is so much more important than sometimes than how many there are.
Yeah.
But again, if a couple came to me and said, or I got a questionnaire back from a couple and there was like 24 group photos on there, I would definitely bring that up in the final call and say, look, you do realise that out of an hour and a half drink reception, you are going to spend probably 2/3 of his time doing these group photos.
I had one a few weeks ago that was like 32 or something. I was like, no way. The photographer smashed them out, to be fair, but...
Yeah. A lot of times, I feel with group shots, big numbers are easily avoidable. I always, and a lot of photographers don't because they don't like doing it, but I like doing an everybody photo. I think doing an everybody photo is a really like kind of peace offering way to get out of doing all the aunties on his side, the cousins on the other side, and breaking down those families too much in. We'll do the friends group.
Every
You'll hang out with your mates during the day anyway. I'll get a photo of you hanging around with your friends. We don't need that in a group photo. Or are you ever going to look at the photo of your aunties and cousins again? Like if they brought you up and they're like real close family, we'll do it. That's great. But if you're doing it to be polite, don't damn bother. Just doing everybody. There's at least a photo then of all of you. That were there, and kind of stick to the people, the core people, siblings, parents, grandparents, bridal party, and you can get that done fairly quickly. But again, I've worked as a second or seen other photographers that want to get they're so worried about not having time or getting their group photos done that they want to do that straight from the ceremony. And I'll tell you now, if you take a couple out of their ceremony, walk down the aisle, and go, right, group photos time, and take them away and try and expect the bridesmaids and the parents to follow. Everybody that wants to congratulate them and do whatever they would do anyway will come up and do that whilst you're doing your group photos. You will get annoyed about it. They will take forever.
No, giving them a bit of time to
Which is the other reason I say, if I'm going to do group photos, I normally wait about half an hour, if you've got an hour and a half drink reception, at that half an hour point, I know that I can take them. If I'm done in, say, 15, 20 minutes, that still means then that they've got another, half an hour with their guests where I can go and photograph the room set up, go back and do some more candids or whatever, before they're going to get called for dinner. And also another little tip as well, which probably takes you off your point, is I always do my everybody photo last. I'll separate that from the rest of the groups.
Do that.
And do that right before they sit for food. Because I think that way is a really good way to get you on board with the venue and kind of curate that time or make some time for yourself. Is where if you go into a venue and say, look, I'm going to gather every single guest that you need seated to dinner and send them your way at the time you want me to.
Sometimes it happens straight after the ceremony that everybody's shot. But like you say, like you're trying to get everyone together and they're all just hugging. Then
or if you try and do it in the ceremony space, everyone wants to get out and get a drink.
Exactly.
So I kind of find, and particularly if you've got grandparents that are kind of immobile, if you go over to them and say, look, we're now going to do an everybody photo, but you haven't got to come back. You'll get up to do this, and the everybody photo is on the way to dinner. It's an easy sell. And for me to stand there in front of 70, 80 people and go, once we get this photo, you can go and take your seats for food. That erupts a cheer anyway. So you're kind of doing your thing. And then, and again, that leads into my couple photo nicely. So I think they're only bad if you don't stand up to your couple in the beginning, if that's the right word to use, and say, this is too many, we need to do less. Your couple need to be educated that they need to nominate someone to help you do them. But I think a lot of photographers, or it's a stigma thing that's gone, the group photos. And if you work efficiently with them, they don't need to take as long as people think they do.
Cool. I just want to get through a couple more. We're smashing this episode. We're pushing time a little bit, but I just want to get through a couple more.
Maybe we'll try quick fire these. I'll try and keep it brief.
All right. Okay. How much involvement would you like a videographer to have in the couple shoot? So, and do you prefer? I mean, photographers have asked me, do you want your own bit at the end of the shoot, or do you want to step in when as and when sort of thing? As
photographers are different, I would say that's a conversation that needs to be had before you take your couple out. If you have like set pieces that you need to do, then I definitely want you to not feel that you can't ask me to do those, or that you need to take the couple again afterwards. I see us pretty much as equals. So I would say I would like to go here, here, and here. If you go, can we add this place in as well? Yeah, that's fine. I've always seen our jobs as fairly equal, so I would again have that conversation like in confetti. As long as I could get a walking shot on the way out, to wherever we're going, and then maybe a couple of setups once we're out there, I'm done. My couple shoots are always quite quick, so if you have stuff to chime in with, I don't see why that can't be pretty much a 50-50 conversation.
Yeah, that makes sense. With us, we try and like step in. We'll let the photographers do the thing, but then we'll be like, if you can keep that pose and not break them up, because the moment you break them up, that moment's gone. So try and keep that, and then we'll just step in and do
the only one which I'm going to kind of dispel here, which I think is which I've always find a problem, particularly lately, is that I always want to take couples for sunset later than videographers do. Because of the way that I do my shoots, I know that I can pull that dynamic range of my shots a lot easier than a videographer can. So I like to have the sun right on the tree line or right on the horizon line to get the warmest sky that I can, and also my couple in.
That's the way I like it, but I found the opposite.
And I found normally I get videographers, whether they want to go home and they don't want to wait until the end, and they're like, can I just take them now? And I'm like, no, like we're a good like half hour from sunset. Oh yeah, but it looks gold enough for me. Like I'm going to blow the sky out anyway. I just want that warm glow on them and a nice. It's like, but I want the sky, and you're not getting that now. So I find sometimes that can be the video going, we're not going for couple shoot yet. We're not going for couple shoot yet. I don't know, wait, it'll get there.
I think that might be a consensus between photographers and videographers, because I've struggled recently at getting people to go out a bit later. I've been like, no, we'll wait till like, you know, when the sun's on the horizon and it looks a bit more orange and stuff like that. But photographers actually wanted to go earlier than I have, because they prefer just like the hazy glow in the background sort of thing.
It's weird, isn't it?
Which, that's really interesting actually.
So maybe I'm the wrong one on that one. Maybe I'm going to have photographers screaming at me going, no, go earlier.
So what do photographers hate it when videographers post screenshots? I've seen photographers say that videographers should not post screenshots because you're stepping on the toes. I know that personally, I do post screenshots on my Instagram. I wait until it would be like long enough for the photographer to have delivered the previews first. But I also have in my contract, if the photographer's doing any kind of video, that's a breach of the contract.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of conflicting myself there, but what do you think?
As long as they are labelled as such, I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah. As
long as you make it clear in that day, you know, in the way that you post it, these are some screenshots from this film I'm working on, that's fine.
Yeah.
I think, and that way, it's, you know, it's exactly the same argument, isn't it, as whether second shooters should post shots from a wedding that wasn't technically theirs.
Yeah.
You know, I think for me, it's kind of brand clarity. If you put photos up and like, look at these amazing photos that I took at, you know, like Dave and Sue's wedding, and then people say, well, actually, they photographed Dave and Sue's wedding. So who's this guy?
Yeah.
Did he actually shoot the wedding, or did he actually shoot the wedding?
Yeah, never call them photos, I think, is the main thing.
Or when you get companies that do both photo and video, trying to label as such, go, no, these are screenshots.
Yeah.
You know, and then tag the supplier in your supply list, or great to work with this guy. These are some screenshots I took of.
Yeah.
I think it's fine.
We try and label them as screenshots, and we also tag the photographer in it, being like, for the real photos, go and check out this
perfect.
person.
I think, I would expect that if, you know, you're going to see photographers wanting to make video content more, particularly even if it's just on their phones for behind the scenes or whatever, I would at the very least expect them to turn around and say, you know, or make it very evident that this is literally, you know, kind of grabbed footage, or it's content that they've made from their phone for the real film.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Go that way.
Yeah.
I think that's just.
It's different when it's behind the scenes.
That's just give and take, I think.
Yeah, but it's when, I mean, I've only had this once, but when I've worked with a photographer who's had a highlight reel on their package and they're filming it with their camera, so you've got one photographer, one videographer, and then the second photographer is also doing video coming down the aisle. Yeah. So you've got two people doing video coming down the aisle, and that's such a pain. So after that, I was like, photographers can't have a highlight.
But I think that's bad. That's communication that needs to happen with the couple. Like, if the couple why do you need two highlights films? Yeah. Or why do they do it? Or that couple should make, or that photographer should have a, you know, they should realise, well, we've got a film. Do we need to do this or however? And that's just manners, I think.
Amazing. Well, we've smashed through most of them. There's a couple more, but I think we could probably leave this to another episode.
I'll try and be quick comment. I want to complete it.
Is photo worth more than video? I think there's a lot of videographers saying that, how comes photographers get to charge so much more? I personally think this is all relative, and I think as I've been going more and more expensive, the photographer has always been just that bit more expensive than me. So as I raise my prices, I work with even more expensive photographers. So I think that people tend to spend a little bit more on the photographer than the videographer, and that's why there's this perception that photographers charge more.
I think that's society at the moment. I think there will be a shift soon, I reckon, over the years. And I think a lot of it is to do with confidence and mindset. People are now into that mindset of our photographers are always dearer than us. We can't charge the money they do.
Yeah.
Don't believe that. There are some really, really expensive videographers out there who make amazing, amazing films who are getting booked. So if you think you're worth more, charge more.
And they're not, some of the expensive ones are not films that the average person couldn't make.
Yeah.
So when you see this, it's $6,000 wedding film and they've got a crew of all these people, or 10 grand, whatever, they've got a crew of all these people, it's completely unachievable. There are people that charge $4,000 and just do the same work that we do, but they've got contacts and they're important, like they've got, you know,
or they've got enough of a presence out there, or there's enough going on that, you know, you can charge whatever you like for whatever service you do, as long as you can convince people that you are worth it.
Yeah.
And if there are people out there, and you said yourself that, you know, you've had a couple of weddings this year where people have booked a photographer for a short amount of coverage and booked you for a full day. Yeah. So in terms of what they paid their photographer and what they paid you, they probably paid you more.
Yeah.
So in that sense, to that couple, the videography was more important. They spent more money on it.
Yeah.
So I think that at the moment is a myth, or people believe it's that way. If you want to change it yourself. Charge more.
Sweet. And last one then, what is the best and worst thing a videographer has done on the day, and how could they improve it? bit of a put you on the spot, but what's the best thing? So like when you've been, oh, that's a really, good practice. And what's something which is
the
really
nice thing that happened, and I think it was you that did it actually, is we were somewhere and we were in a real pinch, and we were away from my bag, and there was an amazing landscape, and I was on like 50 and you had a 24, and luckily we shot the same cameras.
Yeah.
So you said to me, you can just borrow the 24. And you gave me your 24,
okay. Yeah,
and I literally shot about 6 frames on it. I just needed a wide shot, and my bag was back at the venue. We were out in the field, so you lent me your lens to get that shot that I needed. So for me, that was really kind that you gave me a very expensive piece of glass to take some photos in that moment, and did, so for like the couple of minutes I was using it, I got that. I think if you're working with people with the same camera equipment, or just doing whatever, or if you can do something to be nice to help them get a better shot, they're definitely going to help you pay back.
Yeah, agreed.
And the worst thing, which has happened to me, and it's happened a couple of times, is when you make an agreement or you make a compromise and people go back on it.
Yeah.
So I worked with a videographer. He was a friend of the groom's who wanted to be a videographer. Yeah. And the couple had made it very clear to him, look, we've paid Tom to be here. You're doing this for free. Listen to him. He'll help you.
Yeah.
So again, confetti moment lined up. I say to him, what are you using? He's lying stood there with his gimbal and his camera. Oh, I'm using 35. Okay, so we can do a walk back if you want on 35. But I'd rather be at the bottom of the aisle one, say longer. Oh, if you want to do that, I'm quite happy to do that. I'm happy to be led by you. We can make it work. So again, get one out. You're all ready for confetti. I'm there on my 85, lined up. Yeah. And literally, they'd taken 2 steps. As soon as the first confetti had left people's hands, literally, he came legging it forward down the aisle on his 35. So the first half of the confetti for me has got him elbowing his camera and gimbals in it. So at that point, I had to literally just drop my 85, pick up the 35, run to meet him.
Yeah.
And then start to come back. And then he tried to step in front of me to do that. So at that point, I did actually just have to elbow him out the way. Yeah, literally, just elbow across and get my shot.
If you didn't get anything,
and then he got really upset and was like, well, you got in my way. And I was like, no, we made a verbal deal that we were going to do it this way. Yeah. And you chose to go back on that. So the second that you wrong me and I'm not going to get my shot. Again, if it was a videographer that had been paid to be there, I maybe would have been a little bit kinder about it. Yeah. But the fact that he'd offered his services to them because he wanted to get into the industry, I felt at that point that there was just pure sabotage. Yeah. That, our relationship was done at that point.
Was it worth it? Probably not, because now he's got a bad name from you. Like, he could have been recommended if he worked well with you. Do you know what I mean? He could have been on your list.
And that's the hilarious thing. I don't want to say his name at all. I don't know if he ever made it into Videographer or not. But at the end of the night, he came up and shook my... And there was a couple of other instances throughout the day that he did to equally annoy me. And at the end of the day, he came up to shake my hand and was like, I've had a really lovely day with you. And I said to him, I really wish I could say the same.
And
I did. Yeah. And I was like, look, I would love to see you enter this industry. I'm trying to be encouraging of everybody that comes in, and I'll do nothing but to help new people in this industry. But as a word of advice, is you are going to have to work with photographers at pretty much every wedding that you attend. And like we've said probably throughout all of this episode, you need to work together.
Yeah.
If you try and do things selfishly and get to a point where you're actively looking to go out to get a shot and to hinder mine, you're going to fall out with photographers very quickly.
Yeah. I think that's a really good place to end it, is teamwork. And all of these questions have been just in...
Yeah, we're well over an hour in now. This
must be our longest episode.
And we probably could have summed it up in about 10 minutes. And that is it. Just work together nicely. Yeah. You are all there. You are all being booked by your couples to do the same, to do your job on the day.
Helpful. Hopefully it's been helpful for you as well, Tom, Definitely. To find out what sort of questions that we would have. But also, having spoken to many more photographers, like in person, like I say, at weddings, I feel like you have a very similar sort of mindset as them. There are some photographers out there who still don't think video is as important or something potentially, but I think you do have that positive mindset, and 99.99% of photographers I work with now have a really good mindset towards photographers. And we get, like I said, we say it to our couples, we say it to our photographers, we get on with photographers really well because there's a mutual respect there. Like, I really respect how they work, and one of my favourite parts of the job is working with them.
Me too, actually. Like, I must admit, I do about half and half now, and some days actually doing my job, I'm not going to lie, but actually doing the actual wedding bit is inherently easier when it's just me. Because like I said, I have nobody else to consider to. But to do a job where I sit in my office most of my day alone and edit, and to go to a wedding and make friends with guests. But when you are sat by yourself for dinner or doing whatever, you have nobody to bounce off of. I love it when I get a wedding where I work with a videographer, and you get that hour over dinner where you just get to hang out and chat, or even throughout the day, you kind of bounce ideas off each other and go, oh, maybe we could go here and do this, or maybe we could do that. And they kind of ping back their own ideas and go, oh yeah, that would actually be a much better idea. And I've had shots that have been better because they've had an idea that I didn't have, and hopefully the same ways round. And you feel like you've walked away making a new friend, and you've had a really nice day collaborating on that wedding with somebody else. And that's the way that I see it, is that I see that day as, or they've got their business and I've got mine. We are still collaborating on that wedding. I'm not there to get my stuff and they're there to get his. We are actively collaborating to get that.
Well, you're both having to compromise. You're both building up each other's stuff by like offering each other like little bits of inspiration and things like that as well. So, yeah, amazing. It's been really, really, really positive episodes. So I've enjoyed this.
It's good. I feel like we've had to leave enough, because in a few episodes' time we are going to kind of do the flip, and I'm going to kind of come up with some stuff, maybe some myths and preconceived ideas that videographers have about photographers, and we're going to bust those the other way around.
Photographers, about videography.
Yeah. Whichever way, the other way around to what we've done today. And I'll be interested to see. I think some of the bits will overlap, but I think we've managed to save enough in there that I've still got a few good points.
Yeah, definitely. I've seen a couple of your notes, and I'm looking forward to that episode. So.
Be good. No, I've enjoyed it. That's it. I thought I was going to come under fire and get like grilled or something, but I feel like it's been too good, and hopefully
grilling to be done.
If you're a photographer out there, I haven't said anything too controversial that you feel like I should have stood my ground against the video guys on this.
Yeah, same. I hope I haven't alienated any photographers with these questions, but I think it's really interesting to know.
Well, if we have, come at us. Like, this is what this podcast is here for, and we can talk about it in other episodes.
If you disagree, we'd love to talk about it.
Yeah, put it in the comments, and we'll definitely have a chat about it. Drop us a DM. Wherever you're listening, there are comment features on most platforms now, so we can do that, and we'd love to kind of have some questions for you to go over and have like a question episode to answer some opinions from the wider masses of what we do.
Exactly. Sweet. Well, that's been it from us. So be sure to check us out on the platforms, follow us, review, do all the things, and we'll be back in a couple of weeks with the next one.
Yeah, and we'll see you then.
See you then.
Boom.
Sick.
Yeah, it was good. It was good.
That was really good.
It was good.